Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 6. We are on text 26. Yayostat snana viprashta
Yayostat snana viprashta
Nava Kumkuma Pinjaram
Navakuma Vincharam
Vitrisho Api Pibanti Ambaha
Vitrisosha api vitraham
Ayayanto Gaja Gajihe.
Payayanto
gajagaji.
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After the damsels of the heavenly planets bathe in the water, it becomes yellowish and fragrant due to the kumkum from their bodies. Thus the elephants come to bathe there with their wives, the she-elephants, and they also drink the water, although they are not thirsty. So we have been hearing about the description of Kailash Parvat and how the wives of the demigods, the wife of these heavenly beings, they come to bathe over there. Tara Hema Maharatna Vimana Shata Sankulam
Vimana Shatasankulam
Justam Punyanjana Stribher
Justam
Yathakam Satadid Ghanam. The airplanes of the heavenly denizens are bedecked with pearls, gold, and many valuable jewels. The heavenly denizens are compared to clouds in the sky, decorated with occasional flashes of electric lightning. So we may think only we have aeroplanes here in this earth. But no, there's also aeroplanes in the heavenly planets. And our aeroplanes are made of like steel or iron, some metal, no? But the aeroplanes in the heavenly planets are made of pearls, gold, many valuable jewels. In many places, we have heard description of these heavenly aeroplanes. The airplanes described in this verse are different from the airplanes which we have experienced in the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the Vedic literatures. There are many descriptions of Viman, which means airplanes. On different planets, there are different kinds of airplanes. On this gross planet Earth, there are airplanes run by machine. But on other planets, the airplanes are run not by machine, but by mantric hymns. Does anyone remember that we were reading recently of one such flying, almost like a flying city or a flying palace or a flying city.
Kardambu Muni and Devahuti Mata?
That's right.
Kardambu Muni made for Devahuti Mata.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, he made it just by his yogic powers. His mantra, he could produce it, and it could go anywhere in the material world. Anywhere in the material universe, rather. They were going to so many different planets within the universe. They are also used especially for enjoyment by the denizens of the heavenly planets, so that they can go from one planet to another. So here, most of us have to take commercial airlines, but some have their private jets. So here, like this, the demigods have their own private jets. And they don't go only from one country to another, but from one planet to another. On other planets, which are called Siddhalokas, the denizens can travel from one planet to another without airplanes. So the inhabitants of Siddhalok, They have so much power that they do not even need an airplane to transport them from one place to another, from one planet to another, simply by their mystic yoga, by the qualification that they have gotten by doing mystic yoga. They can travel from one planet to another. The beautiful damsels, the wives of the denizens of the heavenly planets, are compared to lightning. In summation, the airplanes with their passengers, which came from higher planets to Kailash, were very pleasant to look at. Especially in the pandemic time, it would be nice to have, airplanes which can just go by mantra. Or you don't even need an airplane, you can just go anywhere. But anyway, better to go to Golok Vrindavan, have an airplane that takes us directly to Golok Vrindavan. So, 28. Hitva Yaksheshwarapurim
Hitva Yakshishvara Purim
Vanam Saugandikam Chatat
Vanam
Vanam
Saugandhikam
Saugandhikam Cha Tatah
Drume Kama Dugher Hridayam
Drumai
Drume
Kama
Kama Dude Hridayam
Chitramalaya Falachade.
Chitramalaya Falachade.
While traveling, the demigods passed over the forest known as Saugandhika, which is full of varieties of flowers, fruits, and desire trees. While passing over the forest, they also saw the regions of Yaksheshwar. Yaksheshwar is also known as Kuber. He is the treasurer of the demigods. So Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, he's a Yaksha. You know how there are different categories of living entities. So he's called Yaksha. He's a Yaksha, and he's called the Lord of the Yaksha. Yaksheshwar means Lord of the Yakshas. In the descriptions of him in Vedic literature, it is stated that he's fabulously rich. So of course, he's a treasurer of the demigods. So he really has a lot of opulence, a lot. It appears from these verses that Kailash is situated near the residential quarters of Kuber. It is also stated here that the forest was full of desire trees. We heard yesterday that he stays in Alkapuri, right? Kuber stays in Alkapuri, so it's somewhere near Kailash. In Brahma Samhita, we learn about the desire tree which is found in the spiritual world, especially in Krishna Lok, the abode of Lord Krishna. So here in Kailash also has this Kalpa Vriksha. Kalpa Vriksha are desire trees. Desire trees means you ask anything from that tree and that tree can give you. Even if it is a mango tree, it can give you grapes. That's a desire tree. And Brahmaji, in his description of Golok Vrindavan, Brahmaji sings this beautiful phrase, Brahma Samhita, and he describes that how the spiritual world is full of desire trees, full of Kalpa Vriksha. And in the spiritual world, the inhabitants of the spiritual world, they do not ask the desire tree something to fulfill their own desire, but they are asking for pleasing Krishna. In the spiritual world, there is no feeling of envy. There's no envy there of Krishna. There's only love of Krishna. And so everyone's object of love is Krishna. And then the inhabitants there ask the desire tree for whatever they need for the pleasure of Krishna. Here imagine if we had desire trees and really the tree would give us what each of us would desire. Each of us will have so many different desires, and those desires may clash with others. What's going to happen? It'll be a completely chaotic situation. Like we throw pebbles in the water. If you throw pebbles at different places, the ripples are going to be created, so many ripples, and these ripples will clash with each other because the purpose is not the same. Each of us is having a different purpose. So there's going to be so much clash. So that's the reason we are not qualified to have these desire trees, because we all will ask for things which will in fact end up in a chaotic situation. But when we throw the stone in the water at the same place, we see the ripples are not going to clash. It's just the ripples are going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So when we keep Krishna in the center, that's why peaceful and happy society. Yeah. So we learn here that such desire trees are also found in Kailash, the residence of Lord Shiva, by the grace of Krishna. It thus appears that Kailash has a special significance. It is almost like
वो
the
पूजा के बाद खा लो,
residence
इसलिए नहीं
of
काटा
Lord
मैंने
Krishna.
कहा 11 से तो
So here as Kailash is being called almost like Golok Vrindavan, Krishna's permanent residential address, Golok Vrindavan. His office is in the Vaikuntha planets. You know, when he's in Narayan, he's in the office, but his residence is Golok Vrindavan. Rakta Kantha Kaganika. Rakta Kantha Kaganika. Swara Mandita Shatpadam. Swaramandita Satpadam. Kalahamsa Kula Preshtham. Kalahamsa Kula Preshtham. Karadanda Jalashayam. Karadanda Jalashayam. In that celestial forest, there were many birds whose necks were colored reddish and whose sweet sounds mixed with the humming of the bees. The lakes were abundantly decorated with crying swans as well as strong stemmed lotus flowers. It's like a very, very heavenly, very beautiful atmosphere. The beauty of the forest was intensified by the presence of various lakes. It is described herein that the lakes were decorated with lotus flowers and with swans who played and sang with the birds and hummingbees. Considering all these attributes, one can imagine how beautiful this spot was and how much the demigods passing through enjoyed the atmosphere. There are many paths and beautiful spots created by man on this planet Earth, but none of them can surpass those of Kailash as they are described in these verses. We also like to go to beautiful places by the ocean, by the lake, you know, enjoy the nature. Here, Prabhupada is pointing out that on this earth planet, we will not be able to see such beauty as it is in Kailash. But we should desire to go to Golok Vrindavan. The beauty in Golok Vrindavan is even more beautiful than Kailash. So we should desire to go to Golok Vrindavan. Even more beautiful. Vana Kunjara Sangharshta. Vana Kunjara Sangrishta. Hari Chandana Vayuna. Hari Chandana Vayuna. Adi Punyajana Strinam. Adi Punyajana
पुण्य जन स्त्रीणाम
Muhur Unmathayan Manaha. Muhur Unmathayan Manaha.
जन स्त्रीणाम.
All these atmospheric influences unsettle the forest elephants who flock together in the sandalwood forest, and the blowing wind agitated the minds of the damsels there for further sexual enjoyment. Whenever there is a nice atmosphere in the material world, immediately there is an awakening of the sexual appetite in the minds of materialistic persons. This tendency is present everywhere within this material world, not only on this earth, but in the higher planetary systems as well. So it is the sexual pleasure, the sexual desire that keeps the living entity here in the material world. It's not that the sexual desire or pleasure is only in this earth planet, but it is also there in the heavenly planets, as we have been reading here in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. In complete contrast with the influence of this atmosphere on the minds of the living entities within the material world is the description of the spiritual world. The women there are hundreds and thousands of times more beautiful than the women here in the material world. And the spiritual atmosphere is also many times better. Yet, despite the pleasant atmosphere, the minds of the denizens do not become agitated because in the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planets, the spiritualistic minds of the inhabitants are so much absorbed in the spiritual vibration of chanting the glories of the Lord that such enjoyment could not be surpassed by any other enjoyment, even sex, which is the culmination of all pleasure in the material world. So, in the material world, the highest pleasure is the sex pleasure. There is no higher pleasure than that in the material world. And that's what's keeping us here. So, Prabhupada is pointing out that in the spiritual world, the beauty there is uncomparable, many, many more times beautiful. The spiritual world, the atmosphere of the spiritual world is many more times beautiful. The the living entities, the inhabitants in the spiritual world, they are many more times beautiful. So here we are reading that because of the beautiful atmosphere, because of the beauty of each other, the denizens of the heavenly planets in the material world are getting attracted by sexual pleasure. But in contrast, in the spiritual world, is even more beautiful. Everything is even more beautiful. The atmosphere, the denizens, everyone. But yet there is no the sexual desire. Why? Because they are experiencing a higher pleasure. The soul is pleasure seeking, ananda maya bhyasa. We, the soul, we don't like to suffer. We like to enjoy. In the material world, we find the highest enjoyment in sexual pleasure. But the higher pleasure than that is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And this is what the denizens of the spiritual planets are experiencing because they are engaged completely in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. And the, the enjoyment that they are experiencing is no comparison, millions of times greater than the enjoyment in the material world. Then we may say we are hearing and chanting, but we don't feel so much pleasure. What to do? Why is that? Maybe this statement is something, maybe there's a flaw in it or what. But the way to understand, Srila Rupa Goswami points out, is that when a person is diseased, suffering from jaundice, if you give him sugarcane juice, he's going to spit it out. He's going to say, oh my God, you're trying to kill me. You're giving me poison. Now, sugarcane juice is very sweet. So a healthy person will really relish the sugarcane juice. But the diseased person is going to think it's poison. But the cure for jaundice is he has to keep on drinking sugarcane juice. And the more he drinks it, gradually, he'll be able to taste the sweetness. As the disease goes away, as he becomes healthy, he will be able to relish the sweetness of the sugarcane juice. Similarly, we right now, because we are conditioned, our consciousness is covered by material consciousness. We do not find so much pleasure in hearing and chanting, but we continue hearing and chanting. Don't stop. We continue to hear and chant. And gradually, we will be able to also experience uh, this kind of pleasure that the denizens of the spiritual world are experiencing. Because the holy name is, after all, Krishna. And Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. Any pleasure that exists anywhere, it comes from Krishna. The holy name is Krishna. So if we are associating with Krishna, of course we will feel pleasure. Right now, only because of our contamination, we are not able to experience that. So we continue to hear and chant. In other words, in the Vaikuntha world, in spite of its better atmosphere and facilities, there is no impetus for sex life. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 59, Param Drishtva Nivartate. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha are so spiritually enlightened that in the presence of such spirituality, sex life is insignificant. Param Drishtva Nivartate. So whenever we get a higher taste, we can give up the lower one. You have to acquire the higher taste of hearing and chanting. So we regularly continue to hear and chant. Did anyone want to add or comment?
So well it's explained, and even you explained it very well. Really true.
Prabhupada,
And
yeah,
you go for the
Prabhupada's
higher,
been
no? Yeah,
higher taste.
yeah.
When we
Higher
have,
taste,
because,
and this is insignificant.
yeah, we are not able to give up. But when we see there's something better, only then we can let go of the lower. Otherwise, we cannot give up. It's very difficult. So, and then Prabhupada would say the taste of the pudding is in eating. So how can we try to get the higher taste? Continue to hear and chant, and we will get it. Now,
But
someone
I
will
don't
say
know,
that,
we get carried. Sometimes I get carried away. That's what, with other things. What do we do then?
we will, because we have been in the material world for a very long time. I get carried away too. We have to understand that we have been in the material world for a very, very long time. But we just continue to hear and chant. Understanding, yes, I have a lot of all the material faults, material desires, whatever, but that's not important. It's gonna be there. It is gonna be there. But let me continue to hear and chant. So don't let those things bother too much. Accept
We
them that
set
they're
our
gonna be.
priorities, right? Yeah, we have to set our priorities.
Set priorities, yeah. That you have to regularly hear and chant. And
Right.
other things, yeah, we just accept that they're gonna be there. Yeah, as you say, set up the priorities. That's good. That's very good. So we stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavir ki jai, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying, and Hari Bol.
Hare